The ancient glyphs pulsed with an eerie, rhythmic glow as Dr. Aris Thorne traced their unfamiliar patterns, his breath misting in the cool, damp air of the newly unearthed chamber. He wasn't just looking at symbols, he was looking at a story, a warning, perhaps even an invitation, etched into stone millennia before humanity supposedly mastered such intricate artistry. The hum that resonated through the cavern wasn't geological. It was something else, something waiting. Just moments before, his lead archaeologist, Dr. Lena Petrova, had vanished without a trace, a single peculiar artifact left behind on the sacrificial altar, an object that felt impossibly light, yet carried the weight of an untold cosmos. The air grew heavy, charged with an energy that pricked at his skin, and the glyphs flared, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to twist into impossible shapes, shapes that were not of this earth. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that Lena hadn't just disappeared, she had been taken, and whatever had taken her was now reaching out, closer than he could have ever imagined. The expedition had been camped for 6 grueling months in the sun-scorched plains of southern Peru, miles from the nearest semblance of civilization. They were chasing a legend, a whisper in local folklore of a star door hidden beneath the desert floor, a place the ancient Nazca people believed was a gateway for their gods. Dr. Aris Thorne, a historian by trade, had always been the skeptic of the team, the anchor of reason against the soaring, often reckless theories of his colleague, Dr. Lena Petrova. It was Lena's conviction, her unwavering belief that the famous Nazca lines were not just art, but celestial runways, that had secured their funding. Aris had followed, intrigued by the possibility of a lost culture, but never truly buying into her more exotic interpretations. That was, until 3 days ago, when their ground-penetrating radar revealed an anomaly, a hollow space where solid rock should have been. They had found it. A subterranean temple, its entrance sealed for what carbon dating suggested was over 2,000 years. The air inside was still, untouched, and the walls were covered not in the familiar Nazca animal motifs, but in complex star charts and depictions of beings with elongated skulls and large, dark eyes, descending from fiery orbs. Lena had been ecstatic, seeing it as the ultimate validation of her life's work. Aris had been unnerved, the sheer impossibility of the find shaking the foundations of his academic world. Now, standing alone in that same chamber, the silence was no longer peaceful. It was predatory. The team above, a small, dedicated crew of 6, were cut off from communication by a sudden, inexplicable electromagnetic interference that had started the moment they breached the tomb. They were alone, with a missing leader and a mystery that was rapidly turning hostile. The inexplicable phenomena had begun subtly, almost dismissively, during the initial excavation. Tools would occasionally fail, their batteries inexplicably drained despite being fully charged mere moments before. Then came the whispers, faint at first, carried on desert winds that weren't there, voices that seemed to call Lena's name from within the unbreached earth. Aris, ever the rationalist, attributed it to exhaustion, the vast emptiness of the desert playing tricks on their minds. But as they delved deeper, the occurrences grew bolder, more insistent. Strange, geometric light formations would dance across the night sky, too swift and silent to be any known aircraft. The local guides, usually stoic, began to show genuine fear, recounting tales of sky people returning, their stories echoing Lena's more outlandish theories with chilling accuracy. One evening, a massive, perfectly circular impression was found scorched into the sand a few hundred yards from their camp, surrounded by smaller, triangular marks, as if something immense had landed and then departed. There were no tracks leading to or from it, just the pristine, undisturbed desert beyond the scorch mark. Aris had tried to explain it away as a prank, a desert phenomenon, anything but what his gut screamed it might be. Lena, however, had simply pointed to the star charts they were uncovering, her eyes alight with a terrifying conviction. "They're not coming, Aris," she'd whispered. "They're already here. They've always been here." The deeper they dug, the more vivid the ancient depictions became. Not just celestial beings, but advanced technology, sleek, impossible vessels, intricate control panels, and figures that seemed to manipulate energy with their bare hands. These weren't primitive carvings, they were blueprints, warnings, or perhaps instructions. The air in the chamber, once merely still, now felt charged, heavy with an unseen presence, a feeling of being observed, scrutinized, and then the electromagnet pulse, severing their connection to the world above, plunging them into an isolation that felt less like an accident and more like a deliberate act. Aris's trembling fingers closed around the object Lena had left on the altar. It was a smooth, obsidian dodecahedron, no larger than his fist, yet it hummed with a faint, internal vibration. It was impossibly cool to the touch. As his thumb brushed against one of its perfectly etched facets, the low hum that permeated the chamber suddenly sharpened in pitch, escalating into a piercing, resonant tone that vibrated deep in his bones. The glowing glyphs on the walls erupted in a blinding flash of turquoise light, flooding the enclosed space with an intensity that forced him to shield his eyes. When he dared to look again, the stone walls were gone. In their place, shimmering, three-dimensional images flickered into existence, projecting directly into the center of the room. He was no longer in a tomb. He was witnessing a memory. He saw the desert plains as they were thousands of years ago, but the sky was filled with silent silver ships that moved with a grace that defied physics. He saw the beings from the carvings, tall, impossibly slender, with large, knowing eyes, walking among the primitive Nazca people. They weren't gods or conquerors. They were teachers, guides. They shared knowledge of astronomy, of agriculture, of engineering, raising the Nazca from a simple tribe to a civilization that could mark the very earth as a tribute to their stellar patrons. But the projection shifted.